Hello people of the YouTube world and all who are watching this. I am Mackenzie901K and welcome back to another reading vlog. So today's reading vlog is gonna be a fun one because not only is this the first reading vlog that we are doing in 2025, it is also going to be a very cozy reading vlog and snowy reading vlog because the snow recently has been in full force here. So it's going to be such a fun and cozy time and I am so excited. We should talk about the TBR first that we have planned for the video. So the first book that we are going to be picking up is going to be Little Women. This is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is the classic Little Women. I have been so intrigued by Little Women for so long. I finally get to read it in today's video and I'm so excited. I have just had some like predetermined like thoughts about Little Women because I've been intrigued by Little Women for a little bit now. Very excited for this and it will be the first classic of the year. And then we are going to be picking up A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. This we are reading because Katie has decided to do a little like buddy read with her Patreons, and the buddy read's going to take place throughout the year. This is also the buddy read pick for January, but she is doing what she is calling the speed read, and we will be pretty much reading every single Veronica Speedwell book that is out currently this whole year. Oh, and that will also be a reread for me. I probably should preface that as well. I've read A Curious Beginning before, but it's been a while, so I'm still so excited for it nonetheless. Then we are reading A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. This is a book that I've been intrigued by for quite a bit now, especially when I got it in my Fairy Loot box. I believe this was the pick for December. So I'm very intrigued by this and I think that it's going to be very, very fun. All that I know right now is that we are in like a magical setting with dragons in London. How much more could you ask for? And the cover, also stunning. So without any further ado, I think we should go ahead and jump into the video and let's start reading some fun, cozy books. Oh no, that dropped you all down too low. I do have some updates on a couple of different books. Mainly A Curious Beginning. It kind of got away from me a little bit when I was listening to this book. So I actually ended up listening to the majority of this book before filming this update, which so sorry, but yesterday I was trying to like clean and things and I was just having a remarkable time listening to this book and cleaning. I don't really remember the last time that I can say that I have had a remarkable time cleaning and listening to an audiobook. Honestly, it's probably been maybe a year ago when I was listening to Throne of Glass. But anyway, just to kind of sum it up, Veronica, she recently had her guardians pass away, so she kind of inherits what her aunt has left, which is not a lot. Veronica is a very on-the-go type of girl. She's not really like a sedentary. Like, she likes to be up moving and doing things and going on her expeditions for her lepidopterus, I think is how you pronounce that. Her butterfly expeditions to catch them. So when her aunt passes away, there is something kind of crazy that goes down. So pretty much she's coming back to her aunt's cottage. Her aunt was renting it, so she's trying to like get that taken care of. Something happens. She finds her cottage kind of ajar. There is a man inside. The man she does not recognize, and at first she thinks the man is there to like kidnap her or rob her, but then he kind of just like darts away, and then he acts like he's gonna kidnap her. So she doesn't really know what's going on. I mean, honestly, I didn't really know what was going on the first time that I read that. I was like, what is this man doing here? So enter in another man. His name I forgot, but he is, I believe, a baron. He's like, you are in grave danger. You have to come with me. I'm going to take you away to this person that I trust with everything in me, and you're gonna go stay with this person until I get this stuff resolved. Off Veronica goes. She gets introduced to our other main character, Stoker. At first, Stoker is this kind of like very reserved guy. I forgot what all he does because, man, this guy I feel like does so many things. But he is not really a butcher, but he like preserves animal carcasses. I believe like a natural historian of sorts. So she meets him and their interactions are absolutely stunning. I could not pick a better set of characters to be put together, to be honest with you. Turns out something goes down. Now Veronica and Stoker are off on this crazy mission to figure out what's going on and to solve this mystery. I'm really enjoying this time around more, much more, might I say, than I did the first time that I read it. And I think it's partially the audiobook. I love the Victorian London era. I love how she talks about just everything, and Veronica's really such a amazing main character. She's very charismatic. She really puts Stoker in his place. I really love that she's a strong-willed woman. She does not need a man. Let me tell you something. Veronica Speedwell does not need a man to help her in any situation, and she will let the man in the situation know that she needs no help. And I just really appreciate that with her, because especially with this time period and how like women, if they didn't get married, they were spinsters and things like that. But it's like with Veronica, you get to see her go out and make her own money with being a lepidopterist and things like that. And I think that that is so beautiful. And that is one of the things when I'm looking for a book that I absolutely love. That's one of the things that I look for, is a strong main character. Don't get me wrong, I do sometimes love like a character's journey where they're not really strong in the beginning, but by the end of the series they are. There is just something about Veronica that I just love so much. And then there's Stoker, and when they both are very intelligent, their banter is phenomenal. I love it. I love listening to I could listen to Veronica and Stoker talk about the most mundane things and absolutely love it. And also the narrator is helping so much. In case you couldn't tell, I'm really enjoying this book this time around. I think the first time I read it, I gave it like a 4-star. I'm thinking that my rating may need to be bumped up to like a 4.5, 4.75. I think the only thing about this book that I was not really interested in was the mystery. And this time around, you know, I'm still not really interested in the mystery for the most part. Like, it's an okay mystery. I'm there for Veronica and Stoker, and if we did not have Veronica and Stoker as our main characters in this series, I don't think that I would enjoy this series at all. So if you really love characters and you really love to, honestly, this is going to be such a slow burn. You love to see characters like banter and things, and you love strong female characters that are really like proud of who they are and what they do, then you would really like this book. This is such a fun series, and honestly, it is so underhyped. So many people need to read this book because it is so good. It is so good, and I cannot wait to jump into the second one, hopefully very, very soon. Before we jump into the second one though, I do have to finish this book. I think I'm only on chapter like 22, 24, somewhere in there. So I don't have a lot left in this book. So I am planning on finishing the audiobook probably tomorrow. I think I maybe have an hour, right at an hour or maybe less. So I definitely think that I can get this finished. I'm very excited to do that. And then we don't have one book update. We actually have two. The second book update is going to be for Little Women. I think that I am starting this year off reading wise on the proper foot because I love Little Women. I'm only like 75 pages in. No, I'm a little bit more. I'm 84 pages in. I'm already like, this book is a 5-star, and I hope that doesn't change. I'm so scared, but I hope that it doesn't change. I just cannot put into words how much I love this book and like what all is like pulling me to this book, but I'm gonna try. Little Women, we are following the March sisters, which consist of Amy March, Meg, I almost said Lo, Joe, and Beth. They're the March sisters, all varying of ages. This is a classic. There's not really, well, not to say that because it's a classic there's not really a plot, but there's really not a plot to this book. You're just following these characters. I believe it's the 1800s as well. It may be a little bit later than that, but I believe it's around the 1800s. You're just following them taking on life. We start the story out, it's Christmas, and right off the bat you really get to see each character's personality. You get to see Meg, first of all, Meg start about how they are poor. I don't really believe that they are poor, not as poor as they try to let on like they are, but they pretty much just live a very basic life. So they live with their mom, their dad is off to war. When the book opens up, they're talking, it's Christmas time, and they're talking about how they're not getting any like lavish gifts and things like that. But then turn that and we see them Christmas morning taking a family across, I believe across the street or close by, their breakfast because they have no breakfast. These girls want to give their breakfast to this other family. Ever since that scene, I have just been in love. I love the writing in here. This writing is beautiful, and it's not beautiful in the sense of it's like a super flowery, hard to understand book. It's very simple to understand. There's not really a lot to it, but it's just written so beautifully. Like the way the sentences are honestly crafted is gorgeous. A point that sticks out to me, and it's every time I've talked about this book, this is always what I talk about, but they were talking about Beth, and Beth, she's the youngest, so she gets a lot of hand-me-downs, and that includes like toys and things, and they just talk about how Beth just like doesn't discriminate when it comes to toys, that she will take them in no matter what they look like or anything. She'll take them in and she'll care for them. I just thought that the way that that was written was so beautiful, and there have been some other really like beautiful quotes in here as well, and we are just now, I feel like, really getting the story started. If you know anything about Little Women, you probably know about Lori. We have gotten introduced to Lori, and that's been really fun. We've got to see Lori kind of build a friendship with Joe, which has been really pretty, and I'm just so obsessed. I think that this book is going to be a 5-star. I think that I'm going to be way too obsessed with Little Women for the next little bit, and I'm so happy that I finally decided to start Little Women because it has been nothing short of everything that I have expected. And also going into this book, I also probably should state I had a preformed attachment to Little Women because I've actually been really intrigued by the story of Little Women for almost a year now, if not over a year. I remember last year or the year before, I was kind of scrolling through TikTok and I started seeing like the Little Women movie from 2019 pop up, and I just felt really intrigued with it, and I watched quite a bit of the movie, I will say, in that format. And then also another creator on here who I have followed for a very long time, Hallie, she loves Little Women as well, which I think is just so sweet. She talks about Little Women all the time, and I just already have had this like predetermined attachment to them, and it's been really fun to just kind of go through my experience with Little Women. So I'm really loving this, and I think that for tonight I really want to try to read more of Little Women. I'm taking this book so slow, which is not, for this book, it's not a bad thing, but I am taking it a bit slower, so I'm not really like super hyper focusing on finishing this book. It will be finished by the time this vlog is over, don't worry, but I did want to kind of read it a little bit slow. With that being said, I think I maybe do want to make a little bit more progress in Little Women. Maybe we'll try to get to page 100 tonight in Little Women. But then also, I've really been intrigued by this book since I received it a couple of weeks ago now, I think, and that is A Language of Dragons. This is by S.F. Williamson. I've never heard of this book before. I never had seen anything on it until I received it in my Fairy Loot box. From what I can tell, this book also takes place in a earlier time period in London in 1923, and it talks about dragons soaring through the streets of London. And then we get introduced to this character named Vivian Featherswallow. She apparently studies this dragon language. Really intrigued, kind of giving the vibes of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and also what I know of the Lady Trent series. This is also giving the vibes of that. So I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. It is a bit of a beefier book, so I also think that I want to pick this up tonight and read a little bit of this, just because I am very intrigued by this, and also I do believe there's a little bit of a romance in here as well. So I think that's the plans for tonight: Little Women and The Language of Dragons, and then we are also going to read some more of this tomorrow. I probably will finish this tomorrow and then give my final thoughts on it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to first of all go take off my makeup because I've been wearing it for way too long, and then I'm going to jump into bed and we are going to start reading, and I will give you guys an update in just a bit. Hello everyone. So it has been a few days since I last updated you guys, and I wanted to give you guys an update on the book that I've started and gotten a little bit into. Not super duper far. Well, I've gotten pretty far in. Let's not sugarcoat it. I've gotten pretty far in. But the book that I have been reading the most of is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. This book, I'm intrigued. Let me give you a synopsis on this book because I now know what it's about. So we are following our main character, Vivi, and this book is a little bit wild. So it's kind of set in like a alternate London from like our London as we know it. It's set in, I believe, 1920s, 30s, somewhere in there. It's an alternate London to our London because this London features dragons. So there are dragons that are prowling the streets of London, but these dragons, we have a peace treaty with them, so they're not like vicious-ish to them, not us. One day though, something goes down. Vivi's parents and I believe uncle get arrested, and Vivi is like, what the heck? Why are you guys arrested? Like, what is going on? Vivi's mom tells Vivi to leave London and just move on with her sister, but instead Vivi decides to do something very catastrophic and very risky in order to potentially save her parents from getting punished and sent to death, pretty much. When Vivi does this, when Vivi tries to save them, it ends up going like she had planned, sort of, but they find her out. They find out that she is trying to prevent this. She ends up enacting a war between her people and the rebellion group of people. They figure out that she is the one that started this. Then Vivi is either told that you are gonna go to prison and be punished and sent to death like your parents, or you can come with us to this secret society. I'm comparing it to like a secret society because kind of they're either like, you can do this or you can come with us to the secret society. So obviously, because this book does not stop at like page 50, she does decide to go to this secret society and help these people crack this new dragon language. I also should mention a little bit of like information that you need to know about this book going into it. Is this book is quite literally what the title says. It is a book about the language of dragons. Different dragons from all over the world speak different types of tongue, and Vivi, our main character, knows quite a bit of dragon knowledge. That is why they give her this alternative, because she knows so much about this dragon language and she's very knowledgeable in the translation of that. It's almost very, and this is like, take this very vaguely because I don't really think it's for sure like Babel, but it is very vaguely Babel-esque. Like in Babel, they kind of talk about translation and how translation can just be horrible to a certain group of people. That is kind of what's going on here. We're learning a lot right now about the dragon languages and things like that. There's not really been a lot of character development. The only thing that we have really seen is Vivi is just struggling with herself. Like, it's an internal battle about how she feels about herself, just how she is dealing with all of this. There's also like another like smaller side plot that's going on with one of the people that Vivi sees at this place, that's going on. We are learning more about Vivi's past and things like that. There's also a mysterious man, and I believe his name is Atlas, that we are kind of learning about and things like that. It's a very interesting book, and it is very heavy on like the language side of things, which I'm very intrigued by. Like, that is all very intriguing to me. But I do think that while we are trying to learn, you know, about like all of these dragon languages and things like that, it is a slower book in that regard. And then also it just kind of seems to be a fantasy. It almost seems a bit mundane with, at least right now. I think it's starting to pick up. We're just following Vivi every day as she goes to like this class to learn how to break this new dragon language and break the code of this new dragon language, I should say. The plot is moving along, but it's very like a very slow building plot because this author has to do so much world building and explanation about the languages. With that being said though, I'm not hating this book whatsoever. That probably made it sound like I was absolutely hating it. I'm not. I'm actually really enjoying all of the content that we're getting in here. I'm enjoying learning about the language. I'm enjoying learning about Vivi's past. I'm enjoying this romance that we are starting to see blossom a little bit. That's pretty much what I've been reading and my thoughts so far. I have not made any progress in A Curious Beginning. I still have, I believe, like an hour or so in the audiobook. I still have the rest of Little Women to read, so we're not done with this vlog yet. We've still got quite a bit to go. So I think for tonight, what I'm going to do is I think that I want to, whenever my fiance goes home, I want to work on my bullet journal, because this year I really want to do like a cozy gaming section in my bullet journal, just because I feel like I'm going to get back into cozy gaming a bit more this year, especially with some of the games that are releasing this year, with like the Tales of the Shire and things like that. I think I'm going to be a bit more excited when it comes to gaming, so I definitely want to set up a page like that. So I think that's what I will do tonight, and listen to the audiobook for A Curious Beginning, and hopefully finish A Curious Beginning tonight. And then I want to read more of this. I definitely want to read more of this, because I have been having a really good time with this so far, and this has definitely brought me back into a fantasy mood. So I'm very excited to continue on the fantasy train for this video. I think that's it for right now though. Let's go ahead and let's jump into the journaling, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. Hello everybody. So it is currently the next day and I do have 1.1 updates for you because one of them is significant. The other one, not so much. The first update that I have is on A Curious Beginning. This update, the reason I'm saying it's insignificant is because it's not that I finished the book, it's that I got maybe like 30 minutes closer to finishing the book. I have 2 chapters left in this. Although, you know, we've not read a lot, there has been quite significant things go down. Like the plot twist has happened, which, you know, I did see coming, but it is still really shocking to see the plot twist. And now they're trying to figure out, you know, what to do about all of this information. So that has been really interesting. We've had some stellar Stoker scenes, which is what I'm here for. Besides that, though, there really hasn't been any type of update on this. That's really it. I can't really even go into anything else with this because anything that I talk about at this point is going to be a spoiler, so we're not going to do that. We are going to move on to the more significant update, and that is that I finished A Language of Dragons. I was not planning on finishing this book before I updated you guys again. I said to myself, I think I was on page like 200 when I last updated you all, and I said to myself, okay, self, you're gonna read like 150 more pages and then we're gonna update before we end the book. I read those 150 pages and then I read the remaining pages after that as well. So we did finish the book. The book overall, I'm going to talk about it on a broad spectrum first. I did really enjoy this book and I am going to be picking up the second one whenever it releases, which probably won't be for a while because this one just came out. So I'm not expecting a release of the second one for a while. As far as this book goes, it felt very YA. It felt very like book building wise, like the beginning, middle, and end really just fell into that stereotypical YA fantasy plot sequencing that I was not very shocked by. There was kind of like a twist at the end. Again, was not very shocked by that. There was a point though that I will say that I was shocked because there was something that happened to a certain character that I did not really foresee happening. It's kind of crazy that it did happen though, I'm not gonna lie to you. So that's kind of like my overall, like broader speaking thoughts. Now going into a more deeper level with my thoughts. Character speaking, I really enjoyed all of the characters that we were introduced to. I do have some issues with our main character Vivian just because Vivian is quite literally very not okay. I understand Vivi, like, to an extent, I should say, because I understand Vivi's need for helping this side of this war that she's on. Like, I understand her need. You know, if I was put into a situation like this where it was like me saving me or doing something bigger, then I think I would have a bit of a struggle too. That is understandable. Vivi is a very like stubborn main character. If we take the like decisions that Vivi made out, I did really enjoy Vivi's character. Like, I enjoyed that she really liked these languages and she was very passionate about them, and that she, you know, was in typical main character fashion, she was like the smartest and things like that. Like, that I really enjoyed. But as far as the decisions that we made, that was her character flaw. I didn't really enjoy that because I thought she would come around to a certain idea a lot sooner than what she did, and even towards the end she was still kind of going back and forth. Then we have Atlas, and Atlas's character I also really enjoyed. Like, I honestly wish we would have gotten more with him because there was like some things go down and there is a bit of a romance in this book. I feel like the romance could have been built out better if we would have gotten more scenes with him, because towards the end, I don't really know how long they were here. I think that they said it was supposed to be like 3 months, but it really just felt like a few weeks. So I feel like their relationship was just a bit rushed, and I think that really like kept me from really getting attached to these characters and proclaiming this book to be a 5-star. That being said, this book's definitely not a 5-star, but it was still enjoyable. I don't really know what I'm gonna rate it yet, but it will be like a higher up rating. I don't think, because I didn't get attached to these characters and I was just really there caring about what the plot was and things like that, I don't really think that it's gonna be too high of a rating, and I don't really think I'm gonna think about it often. But I do definitely think, you know, the different languages and the uniqueness that is this story is very good. It is also, again, I will say, very loosely reminiscent of the idea that I have formed in my head and like the synopsis that we are given about Babel. That's kind of what this is. That's my, like, pretty much my thoughts on this book. I don't really think that I will be thinking about this, maybe about like the plot more often and like the uniqueness again, but not really about the characters. Like, the character builds were very mid. That's my thoughts. That's where I'm leaving my thoughts on that. Again, I still really liked A Language of Dragons, like really liked A Language of Dragons. It's definitely not going to be a 5-star just because there were some aspects to this book to where it really like, it felt YA. There were other aspects with characters and things that I did not love. So I'm going to try to finish this up today. I'm going to try to finish listening to it. I've had such a stellar time with this audiobook. I highly recommend, if you're going to read this series, listen to it. The audiobook, well, the first audiobook anyway, stellar. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna listen to it. So I don't really know what activity I'm gonna do yet. You guys will see in a few what activity I've decided to do, but there's a few that we could do. I am going to pick back up with Little Women today. I didn't bring it over here, but I do have more of Little Women to read. I think I put my update in Fable. It says I'm 27% into Little Women, and also if you guys want live updates on what I'm reading, you can follow my Fable. For now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into A Curious Beginning and finish it and do like an activity of some sort, just so I can like have something to do while I'm listening to the rest of this audiobook, because I don't really want to immersively read this. I kind of just want to do something because I've already read this book before. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick back up with Little Women probably later tonight. I'm going to turn on an ambiance, a Little Women ambiance, and we're going to listen to that while we finish Little Women. So I will give you guys an update in just a bit. Okay, hello everybody. So I do finally have a update on A Curious Beginning, and that update is that I have finally finished it. I will say this, I thoroughly enjoyed A Curious Beginning this time around than I did the first time. I think that the main like driver for me was the audiobook. I think that's really what drove my enjoyment. I highly recommend that if you are wanting to get into this series, that you listen to the audiobook. It is phenomenal. The narrator does a fantastic job. I was immersed. Anyway, final thoughts on this book. I still think that the mystery in this one was not really super duper like crazy. I mean, do I think that the plot twist that happened in here was kind of wild? absolutely. Even though I seen it coming this time and I like already knew, I still thought that the plot twist in here was a little bit crazy. And I definitely think, based on what Katie has said, that this will probably be one of the better mysteries that is going to take place throughout this series. The mystery was really just like a starting point. I feel like we're going to go on a crazy adventure with Veronica and Stoker, and it is one that I will happily follow them into. While the mystery was not bad, I think that the main reason why I love this book is the characters. Deanna Raybourn, very, very, very good at creating character builds. I think that her characters are just so well fleshed out. Even as we are just into the first book, I think that they are amazing. They both have their own very unique personalities. We have, you know, this takes place in 1887, where women were not really given, you know, the rights that women have today. So I love to see Veronica like standing up for herself and really saying, you know, that just because this is what they considered back then a man's world, she can still find her own way and make her own income and living. And she's, even though they consider her a spinster, which I think is crazy, she's still able to provide for herself and go and chase her dreams and achieve them and things like that. Veronica is probably going to be up there in some of my like top favorite female characters for that specific reason. I love strong female characters. Don't get me wrong, I still love characters, you know, when you see them start, you know, from the bottom and work their way up and, you know, really like in this case, like gain their confidence or whatnot. But with Veronica, she already has that confidence. You can see that she's really sure of herself and she's not afraid to go head to head with like Stoker and things like that. So I really admire Veronica in that regard. Stoker, I also really admire him too, because I really appreciate that he appreciates women, and that was very talked about, especially right in the last few chapters. Veronica was talking about how, you know, he goes against like his societal norms and he respects Veronica and doesn't try to make decisions for her, and I just appreciate that so much. I love that Stoker, you know, while he's there to support her, he's not there to control her. So I think, with that being said, I think my rating is going to change for this book, because last year I gave it a 4-star. I'm not really specific on like how much more I want it to increase, but I think for a good like starting point with this book, with this series, this was a very solid starting point. So I cannot wait to read the next book in February, and maybe a bit before February. We'll just see, because these audiobooks are so just like very easily consumable, and I was just having such a fun time with this book. I fear this book is severely underhyped. I want to see more people reading this book, especially if, you know, you like two characters that just, they have a way with their intelligence and they can take that intelligence and turn it into beautiful banter. If you have not read A Curious Beginning, read it. This is your sign. With that being said though, what I think I'm going to do tonight is I kind of just want to chill for the night. I feel like me finishing 2 books, top tier. So I think what I'm going to do is I may pick up a little bit of Little Women and try to make, you know, a bit of progress in Little Women. But I also maybe, you know, just want to sit down and maybe watch a movie or something and just kind of relax. I think that in the morning will be the time when I try to finish Little Women and wrap up the vlog tomorrow. But I think for tonight, I kind of just want to relax, chill, maybe start a little bit more of Little Women. I kind of really still want to watch Tiana. That has been like on my list of things I want to do for the past couple of weeks. And I'm really like inspired right now by Tiana and just the idea that I've formed in my head, because it's been a while since I have watched Princess and the Frog, so I don't really remember a lot about it. So I'm very intrigued to rewatch it. I think that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit. Hello, I have quite a few things to update you guys on, but I'm going to try to wrap it up as quick as I can because my camera battery is almost dead. First of all, yes, I do have an update on Little Women, but we will get into that in just a minute because I fear we have more pressing matters to discuss, and that is that we officially yesterday, what was yesterday's date? January 18th, we hit 1,000 besties. I'm so excited for this new era. I cannot believe we did that. You guys did that with my prevalent excitement. I wanted to say a few things. First of all, I wanted to say a huge thank you to you guys for allowing me the opportunity to try and do this as a full-time career, and for allowing me to express my love for reading on this app, and just for overall being able to build such a beautiful and wonderful community that we are building. I know that the past few days, as I'm posting this, the past few days have been very stressful, especially if you consume your media on other social media apps. I know it's been very stressful for you guys. It's been very stressful for me as well as a creator, as a small creator who's trying to grow a business on here. It's been very, very stressful. I wanted to just say a huge thank you for you guys and for coming to my channel and just being so sweet and so nice, and it's just been such a surreal experience to go through. Like, you will never truly understand how grateful I am for you guys. Like, this has been a dream of mine since I was probably like 6 years, well, 6 may be a little young, maybe about 8 years old. Always wanted to do content creation full-time. It's just so surreal that now it finally feels like we're now moving in that direction to where I can achieve my dreams of doing this full-time and building a beautiful community along the way of people that are just so sweet. Now let's get into the update that I have on Little Women. Here she is. So I did finish Little Women today. What is interesting about this copy of Little Women is it's not the full Little Women story, and it's not what I had previously known Little Women for. But if you've watched the Little Women movie and you read this, it's very different. There are very different things that happen. So this left very open-ended, and that is because apparently there is supposed to be a part 2 to this, or this is just not the full story, something to that extent. This is an American edition of Little Women, and I have tried to do a little bit of research, and what I have concluded is that the American editions of Little Women are actually a bit different than other country editions. I don't really know what exactly all that entails. What I think I'm gonna do is, where I did read this in its entirety, I think I want to pull out my Puff and Bloom edition and go through it and see if the Puff and Bloom edition is the rest of it. With that being said, I'm not going to give a rating on this book just because I don't want to rate a portion of the story. If there's more to the story, then I want to, of course, experience the story in its entirety before we give that rating on it. So I'm going to hold off on giving Little Women a rating for now. I do think that it will be a very high rating, 4.5 to a 5 stars, somewhere in there, because I do really love Little Women. I love these characters, and it really just represents just being a woman and like going through life as a woman, and especially those like teen years where you're trying to figure out who you are and things like that. It was told very beautifully in that aspect. Overall, I really loved this book. There were some parts for me that were a bit slow. It was a little bit, you know, it was a little bit slower at times, but it was still beautiful. The way it was written, beautiful. So I really enjoyed this, like really enjoyed this. I did want to go through and just give like a quick little wrap up on the other two books that we read in this video. The first one being A Curious Beginning. I really loved this. Like, I'm so excited to continue reading this series. Veronica and Stoker are just so phenomenal in all aspects. So they're really carrying this series for me. I am deciding to bump up my rating on A Curious Beginning as well. Originally, I had rated this book a 4-star. Now I'm bumping it up a half-star and I'm giving it a 4.5. I really enjoyed it the second time around, and I think that Deanna Raybourn might be one of my new favorite authors. Then we read A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. This book was so fun. I really enjoyed this, and I'm very shocked that I really enjoyed this. Like, not shocked in a way that going into it I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but shocked in a way that I cannot believe that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because at first I thought that I was going to give this book, you know, like a 4, maybe like a 3 something. I'm going to give this book a 4.5 star. The half-star knocked down because there were quite a few things that I've kind of already talked about that I just didn't really vibe with, especially with our main character. She was like a big determining factor in what I was going to rate this book. So overall, I'm going to give this book a 4.5. So with that being said, guys, that is it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Do give it a big thumbs up if you did. It helps out the channel and it makes my heart smile. Also, do tap that subscribe button as well as that post notification bell. We try to upload around here every Monday and Friday. Tap that post notification bell because that does not always happen. I think that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and again, thank you so much for 1,000 besties on here. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.